Hello again, gamers and gameouts, and welcome back to another episode of Not So Hardcore Gaming. I'm your host, Jeremy, and this week we'll be talking about Saints Row 3. Firstly, I will start by saying this is one of the first games of its kind that I played. It's definitely the first Saints Row game I've played, and even before I played most Grand Theft Auto games, this was the first where you're the whole point of your character is that you're a criminal, which, that can be taken either way, but it was a good game for me to be introduced to the genre for. I had a lot of fun, and let's get into it. So to start quite quickly, first of all, this is definitely not a kid's game. Do not let your kids play this game unless you're a bit weird. It's got foul language, inappropriate jokes, that type of thing, which to a lot of people is fun, and even most young teenagers would enjoy this, but it wouldn't be marketed specifically towards them. But it sort of adds a good fun element to it, because very few games tended to have that, even back then and now as well. People try to steer away from that because it makes the game slightly less marketable. But for this particular game, similarly to Grand Theft Auto, I guess, it is just one big part of the game itself. Your character is literally killing people, so the fact that he swears means nothing, but that's just a bit of a side note. So I'll try not to talk about those particular elements as much if I can, as I try to make this fairly safe of a podcast. But continuing on, we'll start talking about certain areas of the game itself. So firstly, the visuals and the audio. Character design is really, really good. There's many different customization options, and that's just one little aspect of it. The characters all do look fantastic. The city itself is very large. Well, I guess not by today's standards, but large enough you can run around and you can have fun. There's good textures for the buildings. The water effects are not phenomenal, but they're definitely good. If you will excuse me, I haven't played it as much recently. I've played it many times, but there will be a few gaps. There's a lot of games that I play, so I'm not always able to replay a game fully before talking about it again. So again, bear with me. But again, like the visuals, they look very good, especially for the time that it came out, and I played it originally on the Xbox 360. It probably would have come out on the PlayStation 3 as well. And a lot of those games back then didn't have as good graphic capability. For this, the game came out in 2011, so you have to remember that for the time the standards were completely different to what they are now, and the standards then, this definitely fit. This exceeded that in a lot of ways, because as the skyline is good, the water's good, the character design is good, like really good. There is a huge focus on a lot of the cars. There are many different car models, almost all of which you can customize, which is something that I think belongs in really any game like this, is having a good choice of cars. You can go fast cars, you can go big cars. Anything that just looks good is good. And the focus that it had on that is exceeding what you would expect. And then, of course, there's many different types of weapons you can use, both, inappropriate and not, but those are more funny notes. Yeah, so the visuals and audio, the audio specifically, there's good voice acting for the characters, and even your character, you can customize his voice, which we will get to. The audio sounds same as like a lot of others. There's nothing I can really pick out about it that is negative. All the sounds are clear, they're well edited, I guess would be the correct way to say it. And the fact that all different types of guns have a slightly different sound is one thing I always take the time to appreciate, because it means that you have to slightly alter the sounds. And I can't say they sound realistic because I'm not really a guns person, but to me they sound perfectly fine. The weapons themselves, the game has it that different types of weapons fit into different slots, and you've got barehanded, you've got a melee weapon, which can be anything from a baseball bat to a sword. Then you've got your handguns, you've got light machine guns, I think would be there. Then you've got the bigger ones, the bigger machine guns. You've got explosive weapons and you've got long range weapons. All of them split into different categories, and each of them has customizable weapons in both visual and upgrades for the weapons. And there are different weapons you can choose for each slot. So there's plenty to work with. There's plenty different gameplay options which will make it just slightly different to allow you to fit however you need your playstyle to be. They all sound good. They're all impressive in their power. They're all fun to use. And again, there is nothing that I really can take away from it, but as I'm not really a weapons guy, there's not a heck of a lot I can say on the subject. And we've also talked about the cars earlier. Now, so again, just to reiterate, there's many different styles of cars, and each are customizable. Different mods you can make to just alter the appearance a little bit. You can upgrade them an increasing amount, and even the slowest car can be pretty good, and then you can have a car which you just upgrade to the max and it's flying everywhere. Well, not literally flying, although if you include a helicopter as a car, then I guess it could fly anywhere. But it has helicopters, planes, it even has a little seated combat bike, I guess. I don't know what they're called. But a good amount that you can have a lot of fun with it. You can try a lot of different things, and each of them look good, sound good, control well, and again, will conform to whatever you want to have fun with. Having that huge range of options on each aspect of the game, it keeps you replaying it, because you can try new things and then it makes it more fun because the game is just a little bit different. The story, it has a few places where you really choose one out of two options, and then the next few quests that you do will change a little bit, but there's not really a lot there, which is understandable. So the story itself wouldn't really change that much, but the gameplay changes enough that you could play it you can play it multiple times and still have a lot of fun, which is something that I will always appreciate with any game, is if it keeps you coming back. I apologize for there was a bit of a cut there. I accidentally pressed the pause button. I I have no excuse for that. I am clumsy. I apologize. The story itself is fairly self-contained. You don't have to know about the past games to get what's happening in the story. For me, as I said, I hadn't even heard of the previous games until I saw Saints Row 3, and yet I still got everything that was happening. I still got the characters. It was good. It was self-contained, and it's just basically a story of you rebuilding the Saints from scratch, basically, because you've been exiled to a degree, and you have to come back into power. You have to go from rags to riches again. There's really not a lot else to say, just to make it a simplified thing. You have foes that you have to deal with throughout the game. Some you can recruit, some you have to get rid of. It is sort of a similar setup as to having different bosses. Is then you have a goal to go towards. Once you do that, you find something else to do. You find someone else that you need to take down because they're going to make life difficult for you. The standard progression you would expect to see in a game such as this. And yeah, it's a good story. It is well done. It's one I enjoyed. And then, as I said, it's self-contained. You don't need to know the others. It helps to know, and obviously you know the characters, but it is always better to have a game like this where you don't have to do the research previously. You can if you want to, but it's not essential. So that is something I do commend them for when it comes to this game. In terms of the characters, you start fairly simple with some of your crew who have been with you for an extended period, like right from the start, really. And as you go through, you will reconnect with old partners somewhere. You'll find new ones, and it's another one where as you start to gain more power, you gain more people, your influence spreads, and you get more characters come in quite quickly. You start with a very basic amount. You've got your character, you've got one of your partners, Shaundy, and then you've got the enemy. And each of the characters in it are written quite well. Your characters that are part of your team have already been well established. But in those that are new to it, they're written with enough depth. You can get their personality quite well. They'll talk about their past somewhat. You get an idea of who they are. It's not lazily done for me. It's done enough that it's not overdoing it, because some games will put a little bit too much in where it starts to get a bit monotonous, and then other times it doesn't put nearly enough, and so you don't know about the character, so you can't find yourself caring about the character. But this game, it does it well. Each character you care about just as much as you need to. When it comes to the enemies, you care about what makes them your enemy, and it makes you want to get rid of them. With your friends, you care about them enough that you like them, and you enjoy playing the missions with them. It's all done pretty much as well as I think a game can do it. And, each of them are very strange characters, I will say. But that's definitely a good thing. And yeah, as I said, they're fun, they're likable, they're sometimes annoying, but they're intended to be that way. So the way the characters are written is truly very well done. And that's I don't want to talk about specific characters, but just that as a single aspect of itself. So we'll move on now to gameplay. So I've mentioned a little bit, there's a lot of customizational options you can do in terms of weapons and cars. etc. And obviously each different type of weapon will control differently. And you've got a lower grade weapon, a higher grade weapon, everything like that. But when it comes to them, for example, you can be a short range one. You can have fun and just go around swinging a sword for this. So it's a game where you can just mess around a bit. All of the weapons are well designed. They control well. They sound good. They look good, and they don't change it significantly, but enough that you can have fun with that. As I said, obviously you've got the range is the biggest thing, but that's probably the biggest aspect of it. And as I said, it's not extraordinary, the amount that the gameplay changes, but it's just the perfect amount for me, personally. Like, it's not too much, not too little. It's done well, as they sound good, they control well. You've got the customization options where you can make it more challenging for yourself if you want to by turning sensitivity down, whatever else, or turning lock-on enemies down. And that is another aspect of it, is that it influences how difficult the game can be. So for those who really enjoy the game and want a challenge, they can just set everything right down and go with it. And it doesn't take away from the gameplay for me. Then, as part of the gameplay as well, you can call in certain allies to help you in a fight, and they fight independently. So you can choose a big bruiser, or like Oleg, I think his name is. I apologize if I got that wrong. For him, he's just cool to watch. And they talk to you during the gameplay, and so you can get a good laugh from a lot of the characters. And again, that is another aspect which expands the gameplay, is being able to call in allies to make a fight easier, or even just to get a few laughs. It's good fun. It's very good fun. So, as well as the obvious gameplay aspects, you have several different stores. For example, customization, you've got clothes shops, you've got a plastic surgery shop, which you can edit your character halfway through the game. You've got gun shops, which you use to upgrade everything. You've got a garage where you can upgrade your cars. You can't buy cars from there, I don't think, but you're a criminal. You steal the cars, so... and owning properties in the game gets you more money that you can spend to have other things. It's a whole new aspect of the gameplay itself. You know, you do missions to take control over one of them, and you go with it. Then it adds a little bit of extra fun. Let's be honest. It gives you more reason to go and do side quests, so that you can grow more powerful to complete the story better. And it's just the right amount of incentive. And the missions that you can do to take over those properties are fun as well. So even if you don't feel that into it, you can still have a bit of fun with it. You don't get bored too quickly with it. That's pretty much all the areas of the gameplay that I can talk about, at least I think. So now we'll just talk a bit of fun, basically. Obviously you've got the costumes. You can dress up in anything here. You've got some which are just big fancy suits. You can be this big burly guy and wear a nice cute pink dress, which is just gorgeous. And then you even got full on costumes, like you can dress up in almost a mascot uniform and go around just wild, and it's worth a good laugh. It really is. It's a relatively small aspect of the game, but one that I do find quite entertaining. And then This game includes cheat codes, basically, similarly to how Grand Theft Auto always will. And this just gives you a chance to let loose if you want to have a bit of fun. You know, you can get any weapon you want through it, you can get huge amounts of money to just go wild, increase your destructive power and just go on a rampage throughout the city. It's good just to have a bit of extra fun with it, and to just, it's a case of, in a lot of games like this, when you've been playing it for a while, you know, you complete the game once and then you think to yourself, I want to do something new, I want to have some fun with it, I just want to destroy things. This game does it quite well. It gives you the ability to, even if you don't use cheat codes, you can just go around and go wild. And then of course you've got things like the helicopters, which will allow you to just wreak havoc. It's a really good game. I am the type of guy where I enjoy destroying things, so this type of game is perfect for me. I can just set a bunch of cars up near each other and just blow them up, and it's beautiful to watch. I might be a bit of a pyromaniac. I think that's just about everything I can talk about for this game. It looks like it's one of the slightly lesser length videos I've made. Well, not videos. But I've hoped you've enjoyed it. I apologize for repeating myself multiple times, but that's just part of how I talk. And that's really all there is to say. Thank you for joining me again, gamers and gamettes. And I'll be with you again next week with another episode. You have a wonderful day. This is Not So Hardcore Gaming. I'm Jeremy, signing off.